Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
You are now listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show, and I'm your host, Rick Rivera. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And once again, each and every week, just want to remind those that are new listeners just tuning into the show that the Big Picture Retirement Show is about giving you tools and strategies that you can use that will enhance what it is that you've already been able to accomplish when it comes to your retirement planning. Now, some of you might be 5 years away from retirement. Some of you might be already retired. By tuning to the show each and every week, again, we're going to give you strategies and tools that might be able to enhance, the dollars that you're getting on your pension. Maybe maximize your Social Security income. Strategies that might minimize the amount of taxes that you're currently paying, not only on taxes, but also on the money you're paying in Social Security, taxes on your Social Security. How to maximize the investments while minimizing risk. How to minimize fees on those investments and minimize the taxation on those investments, which actually enhance your return. Because any money we save in taxes, any money we save in fees, and all the rest of the things that we talk about on the show that we can actually control will enhance what it is that you're currently doing. And we don't need a crystal ball for that. The strategies that we use are tangible things that you can implement and immediately affect what it is that you're currently doing. Now, if you have any questions about any of the topics that we do talk about on the show, please feel free to give us a call toll-free 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. Again, the website address is safeguardinvestment.com. Now, today I want to talk about market volatility and how it can affect you in retirement and things we can do in order to minimize the effects of market volatility on our retirement planning, and things that we need to take into consideration. Because I've been getting a lot of calls lately and a lot of questions about recent volatility in the market, and it's been making people nervous. And I've been, people calling saying, hey, how should I structure my investments because I'm worried about inflation? Or how should I structure my investments because of recent market volatility that I've seen? I'm really concerned about the market. Or maybe things they've been hearing in the news. Today, we're going to discuss some of these things, and I'm going to share some strategies and ideas that you may want to take into consideration so you don't have to worry about market volatility. You don't need to worry about, what you're hearing in the news regarding the performance of your investments. Because the strategies and ideas that I'm going to give you today are things that you can do that will put you in a situation where if the worst case scenario happens, and let's say we do have market volatility and the market drops 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever percentage rate, you don't need to worry. We've already planned for that. And that's the key thing about retirement planning. Because not too long ago, I just had, and actually I shouldn't say not too long ago, this happens on a regular basis where I have somebody tell me, hey, Rick, you know what, during COVID and market was, dropping 30%, my advisors put us into cash. Or some of my advisors have told me, just, hang in there, it'll come back. Or they're getting different advice from different sources, and the advice that they're getting is not giving them comfort. It's not giving them peace of mind, per se. Because if you are using your money to live on and the market corrects, you can't, and let's say, let me make it real simple. Let's say you're using 4% of your money to live on and the market drops 15% and you need 4% to live on, you're now down 19. Going into next year, you still need your 4% to live on. It's not like you can, call the electric company or phone company and say, hey, listen, can I put you off until the market rebounds again? That's not going to happen. So now what's happening is you're compounding the problem, especially in retirement. So for some broker to tell you, hey, listen, you know what? Hang in there. It always comes back. Well, okay. That's easy for you to say. You're not using this money to live on. Or it's easy for brokers, hey, listen, you know what? We're going into cash right now. And once, things settle down, we'll go ahead and get back into the market when the time is right. Well, when is the time going to be right? At what point do we get into the market? And how much of the market upside are we going to miss by the time you decide to jump in? So just that verbiage alone is not something that's going to give someone peace of mind. What does give you peace of mind is actually having a specific strategy, a specific plan that addresses volatile markets, a decline in the market, in a way that actually allows you to leverage that in your favor. And at the same time, if you planned for it ahead of time, you put yourself in a position where you're not worried about your income coming in every month. You're not worried about having to make lifestyle changes due to market volatility, because this is all planned out in advance. So I want to talk more and more about this today. And before we do, again, for those of you just tuning into the show, you are listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera, and I want to discuss market volatility and retirement. So let's jump right into it. And right now, a correction in the market would be defined as a 10% decrease from the high. And a bear market would be considered a 20% decrease. So how is it that if we have a market correction, and if all these advisors tell you, well, historically, the market always comes back, which is true, and we know that statistically, our market has recovered. Every bear market, every recession has recovered. I mean, even during the Great Depression, it's recovered. And these markets, just, I can show you charts and graphs of statistically, these bear markets or down markets last anywhere from 6 months to around 36 months, let's say 3 years. So if the scenario here is that we all know that the market always recovers, what is it that causes people to panic? What is it that causes people to sell? And what are you going to tell me? Well, Rick, because they're worried about losing money. Well, yeah, we know when we go in the market, we know we can lose money. We know that it has volatility. So what is it about a retiree that when the market goes down, they're in the market, they know that the market can possibly go down. What is it that makes them nervous? What is it that makes them fearful or want to go into cash? Well, they're worried about lifestyle change. Because let's face it, folks, if you're, let's say, still in your career, let's say you're 35 and you're still contributing to your 401k and you have a paycheck coming in each and every week and the market drops 20 or 30%, well, it actually is doing you a favor. As a matter of fact, you're able to buy more shares at cheaper prices. You're able to get blue light specials and clearance sales on things. You're able to accumulate more units, more shares at cheaper prices. You got plenty of time on your side. And then, of course, if you're fortunate enough to work for a company that, gives you, matches you contributions, now that money is buying you more shares at cheaper prices. So when we're younger and we're actually contributing to our 401k and we have a paycheck coming in, volatility, if you think about it, is really our friend. However, once we're in retirement and we're no longer getting a paycheck, the game changes. Volatility is no longer our friend because we need that money to live on. However, we have strategies that we use with our own clients at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group that actually puts the retiree that's using that money to live on, puts the retiree in a position like the 35-year-old in terms of when there's volatility of the market, they no longer see it as a disadvantage. They no longer see it as a stressful situation. They are now looking at it as an opportunity. Our clients see market volatility now as, oh, well, good. Now we have some things that we're going to leverage in our favor to take advantage of this, sort of like the 35-year-old. And so they're no longer worried about lifestyle change or needing to go back to work because they're going to run out of money. No, they are now thinking like a more disciplined investor. So I want to share a few of those strategies with you. And I want to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to cover those strategies on how those of you that are retired or coming close to retired and you're worried about market volatility, you're worried about your retirement, how you can be put in a situation where now you're going to be looking at volatility as your friend. So in the meantime, if you have any questions about any of the topics I talk about on the show, or maybe you'd like to set up maybe a 15-minute phone consultation where maybe I can answer some of the questions you have about your own retirement planning, feel free to give us a call, toll-free, 800-700-1980. Again, that toll-free number is 800-700-1980. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
And we're back. And if you're just tuning in, once again, you're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. We're talking about market volatility and how it can affect your retirement. And basically in the first segment, I was discussing that, how somebody younger that is still working, that is contributing to their 401ks or their 457s or their SEPs or retirement plans, when there is market volatility, of course, they're getting a paycheck each and every week from their employer. So they don't need this money to live on. So when there is market volatility and market declines, it's actually an opportunity for them to scoop up more shares at cheaper prices and, basically get blue light specials on positions. Because they have so much time on their side, they can actually make it work in their favor. But obviously, once we do retire, the game has changed. We're no longer getting a paycheck. We need this money to live on. And market volatility can make people worried about lifestyle change in retirement. They worry about running out of money. So what I want to talk about is some things that we do with our own clients in order to put them in a position so that way when market volatility occurs, they're kind of like that younger person that's still putting money away. They see it as an opportunity. They can think clearly as a disciplined investor rather than panicking. So let's talk about that. Well, what we do as a firm is we have to understand, or as planners, we have to understand our clients' goals, objectives, have to understand what their tax situation is like. We have to understand what income they're going to need each and every month. So what we do is we strategize a plan that makes sure that whatever income they need in order to maintain their standard of living is rock solid. So we have to use specific investments and specific products that allow us to address that. So maybe somebody's getting Social Security and part of their income is coming from a pension. And like I said, part might be coming from Social Security, and maybe there's a bit of a shortfall. We have to address that shortfall. Once we have that income shortfall addressed, and depending upon the client's specific parameters, the specific investments and products that we use will, be determined based on the client's, again, parameters. But once we use those specific tools in order to make sure that that income that they're going to have is rock solid regardless of under any market volatility, then the next thing we need to make sure of is that they have enough money for emergencies. Because God forbid there is market volatility. Last thing you want to do, of course, if your luck is anything like mine, when I need my money the most, that's when the market's going to be down, right? So we need to have, an element of assets set aside in specific products or tools that allows a person that regardless of under any market condition, hey, they have access to emergency cash, emergency money that they can access, that if the market's down, they don't need to liquidate shares while they're down in order to cover emergencies. Once we have that handled, we also have to make sure that we do have some money invested in the market in order to cover inflation and things of that nature. So once we have the base, or I'll call it the foundation, set up, and we have it rock solid to the point where we already know, hey, listen, under any market condition, hey, your income is set up strategically. And here's why, and here's how it's set up strategically. If you need emergency, if there's an emergency, here's where we can go to get that money. Now, if we have market declines, and I'll just use COVID as an example, in 1 month, the market dropped approximately 30% in a month, where many people were panicking and they were unsure. And they were, the brokers were like, well, just hang in there. Or the brokers were like, well, we're going to go into cash and we'll just, wait before we hop back into the market. That wasn't giving people comfort. There was no strategy behind that because the person didn't really have a plan other than just, well, hang in there. Well, for how long? 6 months, 3 years, 2 years? Is my income, how much do I have to spend this money down before this market rebounds? And by then it might be too late for it. It may not rebound enough because I already spent a bunch of it. I already spent down too much of it for the market to even recuperate what I spent down. So once the income and emergency monies are set aside, now we put whatever money's in the market in a position where we don't need that money to live on, just like the 35-year-old. So now that I was using as an example earlier, so now when the market declines, we know it's going to rebound at some point. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 3 years from now. We don't know. But what are we going to do in the meantime? We know the income is set. We know our livelihood is okay. We'd have emergency cash. So now let's start leveraging. Maybe we take some of our conservative positions and we start buying some more equities that are now at discounted prices. And we start picking up more shares at cheaper prices, just like we were doing when we were younger and still working at the 401k. Here's the other thing too. Now that the market has declined and the value of shares are now lower. Remember, I don't know if those of you that consistently listen to the show, we talked about Roth conversion strategies. Now that the market has declined, there's actually strategies that will allow you to do those Roth conversions even more efficiently. And we can get some money over into those Roths on a tax-free basis. So now we're using strategies to not only scoop up more shares at cheaper prices, let our interest and dividends buy us more shares at cheaper prices, not only, review the economic situation and maybe take some money out of maybe bonds or fixed income positions and purchase us more shares of other sectors that we know are going to do well going forward. But now we're in a position where we can actually do Roth conversions in a much more strategic way to get more shares over virtually tax-free. And these are strategies that we use with our own clients because now what happened, I hate to say this, but the scenarios with many of our clients, the way we structure the investments, the way we structure the income and the rest of the assets, we structure in such a way that now they actually look forward to when the market goes down for a period of time because now they know, hey, wait a minute, I'm glad there's finally a little bit of a lull in the market now because now this is going to give us the opportunity to do those Roth conversions, do things more tax efficiently, scoop up more shares at cheaper prices while everybody else is running for the hills and selling and the value of their shares are going down and down and down. We're leveraging all that in our favor. We have a strategic approach. We already planned for this. So now the market is basically playing right into our hands. And this is the strategy that you want with your situation. You want a strategy that hey, we've already planned for this. Now, some of you out there are maybe closer to retirement, maybe you're already retired. Maybe you work for Kaiser and you got, you're trying to decide, hey, should I take the lump sum that they're going to give me, or should I take the pension? Some of you work for the gas company and maybe you're thinking, or the electric company, and you're thinking the same thing. Should I take the lump sum? Should I take the pension? What's going to be most advantageous to my situation? Some of you may, maybe you're a teacher and you're under the windfall and you're like, well, I know I'm going to get my pension when I retire, which is great, but, I did contribute some quarters to Social Security and I'm under the windfall. I'm going to get dinged. How's that going to affect my retirement planning? If you have questions about these things, or should I say, if you have questions where you're like, market volatility does make me nervous. I'm concerned about how much money the government is spending right now. I'm worried about inflation. I'm worried about, the standard of my living in retirement. I'm worried about, healthcare costs going up. Am I going to have the money in order to supplement my retirement going forward? If you're actually worried about these things, then what I would suggest, give us a call. And what I'll do personally is I will sit down with you personally, review your situation, and let you know if there are some things you can do strategically to put yourself in a better situation where if there's volatility, if there's inflation, if there's a new administration, whatever the situation may be, you can be put in a situation where you can say, hey, this just played right into my hand. We planned for this. We strategized for this. So it's actually working out in my favor. So if you don't have that attitude towards your current situation, and it's a little bit more of a nervous feeling when there is volatility, then give us a call toll free. And what I'll do is I'll be happy to offer you a 15-minute strategy call. Just give us a call, and I'll get an idea of your overall scenario. Or if you prefer, which would be even better, I'd be happy to offer you a 1-hour free consultation. You come in, or if you want, we can even do a Zoom meeting where I can ask you some questions, get an idea of your overall situation, and then that way I can let you know if there are some things you can do that might maximize your investments in a strategic way, maybe even minimize the fees, maybe minimize the amount of taxes that you're currently paying, or maybe minimize the taxation that's going to be on your Social Security or your pensions. We can even talk about your trust and will planning. Any strategies at all. We'll look at things from that big picture approach, because that's what this radio show is about, looking at things from that big picture approach. If you want to take advantage of that, give me a call, toll free, 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com and call us now, and I'll offer you that consultation. With that being said, that brings us to the end of the show. Again, I want to thank all of you for listening. If there's any specific topics you'd like me to address, feel free to give us a call as well. 800-700-1980. Also, if you want any help in enhancing what it is that you've already been able to accomplish, give us a call toll free, 800-700-1980. You can also reach us on the web at safeguardinvestment.com. You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show. I'm your host, Rick Rivera. Have a great weekend.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.